Good morning. What's up? Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show. Thank you guys so much for taking time on your day to enjoy the show, hang out with me, and blah, 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 blah. Last night was one of my favorite nights. I woke, I was scouring the internet and I saw this trending, and I just had to share this in case you personally haven't listened to this.
Hello, friends.
It's Joe Rogan.
So I got back
COVID.
from the road Saturday night, feeling very weary. I had a headache, and I just felt run down. And just to be cautious, I separated from my family, slept in a different part of the house, and throughout the night, I got fevers and sweats, and I knew what was going on. So I got up in the morning, got tested, and turns out I got COVID. So we immediately threw the kitchen sink at it. All kinds of meds, monoclonal antibodies, Ivermectin, Z-Pak, prednisone, everything. And I also got an NAD drip and a vitamin drip, and I did that 3 days in a row. And so here we are on Wednesday, and I feel great. I really only had one bad day. Sunday sucked, but Monday was better. Tuesday felt better than Monday, and today I feel good. I actually feel pretty fucking good. That's the good news. The bad news is we have to move Friday.
Look, people are losing their minds over this video. Like, I even got into a spat last night with some guy named David Newman. He said, wait, Joe Rogan tells everyone the vaccine isn't safe, but then when he gets COVID, he decided to take ivermectin, a horse dewormer, and any other random unproven drugs. What the F? And then I wrote, and he's okay. Because you're personally allowed to take whatever drugs you want to take, especially if your doctor prescribes it to you, because it's your doctor. I love all these people that are now medical scientists, and they're following the CDC, therefore they're the authority on all that is science and that all that is true in life, and you're not allowed to have any other thing. And then I wrote, he's okay, and then he wrote back, okay, just like 99% of everyone that didn't take any of those meds. Coincidence? What? When I first read that last night, I was like, so you're okay with ivermectin? I don't understand your point. Yeah, so people that didn't take the meds are okay too. So it's okay to take ivermectin. This is what happens when science is no longer science and becomes dogma. You would think this would be something that is like celebrated and like, wow, thank God Joe Rogan's okay. I mean, he's not the youngest dude in the world, but yet he is very physically fit, always talks about health and fitness. Maybe that's why the community hates him. So the not science community, but the science community hates him so much, is because he talks about different ways to come to a conclusion. He has hypothesis, and he likes to test things out and likes to try new things in order to get a result. Why is that such a bad thing? Why have we become... And I don't say we because I'm not there, but this culture of not being allowed to question truth and only listening to authorities for the answer is devastating for us as a society to continue to grow and get stronger and more knowledgeable, because the only way you get more knowledgeable on things is questioning why things happen. If we all just did the same things we did back in the day, we would be so stupid. I mean, seriously, you would never progress, quote unquote, if you will, because now we're just in this weird regression of science where you're not allowed to question a few experts or a few authorities. You're not allowed to be you're not allowed to be a doctor. You're not allowed to prescribe things to your patients because, for fear that, maybe a pharmacist won't fulfill an order from a doctor. The only thing I was annoyed about listening to that video of Joe Rogan talking about the drugs he was taking is that I'm just thinking, if I went to my doctor and asked for these drugs, I guarantee you she would not prescribe me these drugs. In fact, she would probably put me in the camp of QAnon or automatically just label me as like a QAnon Trump supporter. Oh my God, you're probably also anti-vax. This is what I hate about COVID so freaking much. There's no discussion anymore. You're not allowed to talk about things. It's like climate change. You're not allowed to discuss these things. You have to just take them as truth. And if you question it, you're seen as dangerous. As opposed to, okay, question it, you idiot. Like, people like me should be allowed to question anything. Why? Because I'm an idiot. Let my stupidity, I mean, even Joe Rogan says it himself. He's always like, do not take, and again, my podcast is not health advice, ever. Joe Rogan is always saying, don't listen to me, I'm just a stupid comic. And people, and then people that don't listen to him think that people like me that do listen to him are just weaning at every word he says. And it's like, Joe Rogan, tell me what to think at this moment. No, we don't look at Joe Rogan the same way you guys look at Fauci or the same way you look at your presidents and stuff like that. We just come at things with a different angle. And I scoured the internet and there was just stuff everywhere. People losing their minds. First of all, just calling ivermectin a horse dewormer when ivermectin is used on humans too. I'm not even talking about COVID. Ivermectin is used to treat river blindness and a few scabies. This is things. And I don't know if people know this, but there are a lot of drugs that my dog takes that also I have been prescribed to take. Just because an animal takes a drug doesn't mean it's only for animals. There's a time in life when I remember when drugs were just drugs and science was just science. Can't drugs treat a lot of stuff? Isn't that the whole point of a drug? It's not like these drugs are just for animals, all right? And these drugs are just for humans. I mean, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I feel like usually the difference between what animals are taking, humans taking, is mainly has to do with dosage, depending on the size of the animal and stuff like that, more than just being for animals. But I wake up to news stories all over the place. Joe Rogan's taking ivermectin for COVID-19 diagnosis. There was a lot of stuff. Podcasters ripping Joe Rogan, saying he's anti-vax. Oh my God, he's just promoting this horse tranquilizer. It's unbelievable. Blah, 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 blah. In fact, Joe Rogan came out and said, I'm feeling better. I've taken these things and it's worked for me. Why is that such an insane thing to say? This whole push by liberals and a lot of people in the media to say that the only people that aren't taking the vaccine are white Trump supporting, like probably white men, Trump supporters, and their misinformation tour when Trump is the one that touts the vaccine saying, I created it and I took it and it worked for me. All this stuff is just so political. The reason people aren't taking the vaccine has nothing to do with something Trump said or whatever conclusion you think. Like you're a white supremacist. I don't know. I don't understand these people. The reason people aren't taking the vaccine is because they decided for themselves that they didn't want to take the vaccine because, I don't know, maybe they're young, they're healthy, or they live in remote areas or whatever. Or they also don't trust the government, because why would you? When you have stuff like this, when you have these people in these dogmas that Joe Rogan comes out and says, I took ivermectin, Z-Pak, and monoclonal antibodies, and I did all these things, and I threw a bunch of vitamins at it. I took vitamin drips, and I feel good after 3 days. And people are like, you didn't say the magic word. You didn't say vaccine. You have to include that. Joe Rogan's never came out on his podcast and said, I didn't take the vaccine. He just says sometimes that there are side effects to some people, and people are like, Joe Rogan says the vaccine is unsafe. Yeah, it's unsafe for some people. That is not a crazy idea. To say it's 100% safe is the most idiotic statement in the world, but that's where we're at. That's where we're at on the science. That's where we're at on questioning things. Imagine if people weren't allowed to question gravity or the flat earth theory or,
What? That's different. That's different. This is more devastating.
If you guys would just shut your mouth and just say the vaccine works, here's the statistics, here's the side effects, here's what people shouldn't probably take it, and here's what people should take it, I think you would have way more people taking the vaccine. If you were just honest, if you just said these people shouldn't and these people should and stuff like that, even the people that maybe shouldn't, maybe they're young or something like that, they might consider it because you're being honest. But instead, we're in this weird religious dogma where you're not allowed to question stuff because the authority says not to. And if you go against stuff and it actually turns out it works, like Joe Rogan said, I use these things that worked. And Joe Rogan didn't say, I use these things and so should you. He said, this is what I used and it worked for me. But now we have hospitals, we have doctors, we have experts saying things like, this is just horse dewormer. You're not allowed to use this. You're not allowed. You can't do this. This is what drives people to want to use these drugs, even if they don't work. It's because you told them they're not allowed to see them, touch them, or feel them. You told people that you lied to people. You changed your mind. You went all over the board, and then you finally said you're just not allowed to talk about these things. Are we in China? Because sometimes I feel like it. Sometimes some of these celebrities and their blue check marks, I'm wondering, would you be better suited in China where you just have an authority telling you how to think and feel all the time? This whole, we're in this together, tribalism. I've never seen tribalism like I have in today's culture where people are, you're not allowed to question things. You just have to be in your camp. And if you ever go out, and I see it on both sides, but you go out of your camp for 1 second, all of a sudden you lose people. People no longer want to listen to you because you're anti this or you're against Trump or you're against Biden, you're against the science, you're against blah, 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 as opposed to we can't just have normal conversations anymore where you question stuff and the people that and your neighbor down the street who is always questioning authority and questioning the government that crazy person is no longer as crazy anymore because there's more people that question it because you're not allowed to question it. The government isn't held accountable for things that they get wrong. They don't come out and say, we messed this up. This whole COVID thing is, you're driving people to a point because you're not allowing discussion. You're not allowing science to take place. You're silencing doctors for speaking out differently than other experts. Who gives a crap? Seriously. If you would just allow people to just spout nonsense or spout different theories and then allow them to draw that conclusion based on the science that they've been doing, and then we might actually progress in this disease, this virus. But instead, we're just allowing a few people to go about this stuff. I don't hear enough, and I've said this over and over and over again. I'm just getting so bored of talking about this. I don't hear enough about the therapeutics being used to treat COVID-19 and what's working and what's not working. I feel the nurses I've talked to, I feel like we're in the Stone Age where we've come up with one idea of how to best treat it and we've never altered. We've never changed. We've never tried anything else to maybe speed up recovery. And you're not even allowed to talk about these things. There's not enough discussion about therapeutics and what's working out there and what's working for certain ages and why you should probably take the vaccine because it doesn't work for. There's not enough data. You guys are just so close-minded and you're thinking when it comes to this COVID-19. I know you hate You love using that word closed-minded, but you're the ones being closed-minded and not allowing science to take place and allowing people to have actual conversations. And I'm getting so tired of it. God. Joe Rogan comes out and says, I took ivermectin and monoclonal antibodies and vitamin drips and stuff like that. And people lose their minds because we're not in a free society anymore. We have groupthink and we have tribalism, and those people control the narrative. Well, they seemingly control the narrative because they're all in power and they're all part of the establishment. So go, establishment, go. Have a fantastic day. Let me know your thoughts on this whole Joe Rogan nonsense of people losing their minds, because who cares? All right. If I have a headache and I take Tylenol and it makes me better, are people going to lose their minds and say,
you're spouting nonsense. You should have been taking ibuprofen. You should have been taking aspirin. God, what an idiot.
Oh, your head feels better? I guess I don't care what you took because it's ultimately not that dangerous. Same could be said about Joe Rogan and his ivermectin. Joe Rogan, you took ivermectin. Could that have been the reason you got better? I don't know. But did it kill you? No. Did it affect you in any way? Turns out it didn't. So who cares? Can we just go back to who cares? And allow people to, choose how they either want to live or die? Imagine that. Imagine that kind of freedom. Imagine being allowed to just choose stuff you want to put in your body because, you only live once. I know the science community wants to control everything, but they don't control you. My body, my choice. Have a fantastic day. And as always, see you on the next episode of The Derek Roche Show.